Hi kindergartners, it's Miss Wan. I'm here to do some writing with you today. This week we've been doing personal narratives. So these are stories, but they're things that have actually happened to us in our own lives. As a reminder, at the end of this week, you will have a completed personal narrative, so a full book telling a story from your life. You have two options about how you want to write that. You might be planning and writing one page every day. Or you may have already planned and written your whole story, in which case today you might add something that good writers do that we're going to talk about, which is adding dialogue. So I'm going to show you my plan and my finished book, and then we're going to talk about something that good writers can do to make their writing more interesting. So I was thinking about a story that I could write from my life that would be interesting and would be a small moment, a short moment, from my life. And I was thinking about something that happened recently that was surprising or interesting or exciting. Then I remembered that I got a surprise visit from a friend that you all know, Mr. O'Connor. So here's what happened. First, I was working and I drew myself at my table because that's usually where I work, is at my kitchen table. Then I saw Mr. O'Connor out of my window. I was so surprised. I was not expecting him to be there. And last, they left bread. Oh, Mr. O'Connor was with his husband, Mr. Busby. So last, they left bread. They had brought some bread that they had made at their house to give to us as a gift, and they left it outside of our front door. So that was something that happened to me recently that was very surprising, and I thought that would make a really good book. So I have written my pages. My first page, here's me at my table working. It says, first I was sitting at my table doing work. Then I looked out the window and I saw Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Busby. And I used an exclamation point because I was feeling really surprised when that happened. And I want my readers to read that in a yellow voice. Last, they left homemade bread. We were so excited and we waved at them. Because we're social distancing, we waved out the window, but we could not actually talk to them. They left the bread. Today we're going to talk about something that good writers do, which is adding dialogue. It means when we tell what the characters were saying. So I was thinking about two places in my story that I could add dialogue. One was this page. When I looked out the window and I saw Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Busby standing outside of my apartment, I said, "Oh my goodness," because I was so surprised. So I'm going to add some dialogue. I'm going to add what I said during this moment. The other page that I could add dialogue to was the last page. When we were waving to them, we also opened the door and we said, "Thank you," because we were so thankful that they had brought us something homemade. So I think I'm going to add that down here as well, that we said, "Thank you," while Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Busby left. All right, I've worked on my book and I've added some dialogue, what the characters were saying. On page 2, my book says, "Then I looked out the window and I saw Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Busby." Then I added a sentence that says, "I said, 'Oh my goodness.'" I also added dialogue on page 3. At the end, when Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Busby were leaving and we were waving to them, we said, "Thank you." So I wrote, "Last they left homemade bread. We were so excited and we waved to them. We said, 'Thank you.'" You'll notice that I've included some punctuation, some marks that show that the characters are talking. These are called quotation marks. These two little lines here and two little lines here. Those are called quotation marks. They help the readers understand the words that the characters were saying. On this page, I said, "Oh my goodness." So I put quotation marks at the beginning of "oh" and the end of "goodness." Same thing here. We said, "Thank you." And so I put quotation marks right before "thank" and at the end of "you." Today, again, you may have already written your book, and today you might be going back to your book and adding dialogue, adding what the characters were saying on one of or more of the pages. You might also be writing one page every day, and you might think about adding what the characters were saying on that page. We're really excited to see your writing. Thanks for writing with me today.